Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to the JB Arts YouTube channel. Today we've got some modeling clay, and I'm going to start off by showing you a few examples of, some real professional work here. Some of them, like children's book illustrators, right up into like car designers. So we had Kim Fernandez, we've got Barbara Reed here, and then another artist who does a lot of like polymer clays and modeling clay, Tatiana, and sort of detailed real life type people, usually turned into molds and characters. Car designers use modeling clay. And then stop motion animation, two of my favorites, Paranorman, Box Trolls, absolutely fantastic movies. If you haven't seen them, should go out and get them as soon as you can. Okay, so here with the modeling clay, we want to try and do everything in the background first. We want to build from sort of the things that are the furthest away and build toward our viewer. Because the more we layer on our sculpture, if we put in our sculpture first, like the flower on a table, then we got to try and put the background in around it. And then it doesn't work as well, or it's harder to do. So we might as well work thinking background forward. So in mine, I've just sort of layered in the pink wall. I had thought about originally making it like a tacky wallpaper, but I just found that it didn't really need it for the time frame that I had and sort of the lesson I was going for in this particular case. You can see where in the floor I did use a pencil and sort of draw it out roughly, kind of where I wanted it to go. But you don't want to spend a lot of time on your drawing because you're really covering it up. If I had sort of done the floor with a cat bowl, the cats and the mice and things like that, well, I just would have covered all of that up by doing the floor. So if you're doing something like sunset and mountains and trees and people on the beach and stuff like that, well, you really just need sort of your sunset colors, a bit of water, and maybe some land, and then you can put your mountain on top of that, and then you put your sort of land on top of your water, and then things that go on top of your land like palm trees, and then you put the coconuts in after you sort of put in the leaves, and this sort of builds up until you have sort of your final product. So in my case, I put in all the blue tiles. Now I'm going and putting in white tiles, making sure that your hands are clean between color changes, so you're not smearing the wrong color in. You can see where I sort of use the tool to sort of clean up stuff. I kind of push and pull the modeling clay back and forth until I sort of get the right line that I want. It's easy to sort of push the blue into the white a little bit and then pull the white back sort of over top of it until you get the exact line you want. So it comes down to using sort of a straight tool or a pointy tool. For a pointing tool, I usually just use either the corner edge of my red tool, mostly, or a pencil. Pencil works great. So I'm pretty well finished the floor now, and I'm going to be doing sort of a table with flowers on it and sort of like little mice sort of running around, and an afterthought of having just sort of a sleeping cat sort of sitting around. So when we make our little pieces or our details, you want to try and do your base sculpture first, most of it done with your hand. So you can see here where I'm just sort of rolling out the pieces. When you roll out your pieces, you want to be nice and gentle. And if your piece is nice and round, then do sort of long strides, soft strides, rolling on the table back and forth. But if you find yourself getting a bit of an oval shape, you want to do very tiny rolls, only like little quarter rolls. So you find the high point of your cylinder, you roll it gently on the high point until it rolls back into a circle, and then you can go back to your sort of long, soft strides. To flatten it out, I just sort of use my finger to sort of flatten it and then sort of extra flatten with the tool. Now here, you notice I'm doing the table. Well, I decided, I was trying to think of the perspective that I wanted in the table. Do I want to be sort of the mouse looking up at the table so I see under the table? Or do I want to see more of the flowers on top? So I tried it originally with the table flipped the other direction, so it looked like we were looking underneath the table, like we were a little mouse going, man, I want on that table. But then I decided I wanted to be more about the flowers on the table, so I decided to flip the table back over, so the fat end or the wider end of the table was sort of pointed at us. It's the closest object to us in the room. Then I put the flowers on. or the vase, and now I'm assembling the flower pieces, starting off with the green stems, and then I'm going to put that into sort of the little vase. So I've actually made in the vase a little crevice. You can see here as we get closer, there's a spot to insert the greenery, and then I'll put the flowers on top. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a close-up of what I'm doing here. I put it against a white background because the green leaves against my green drafting table kind of didn't work so well. You couldn't see it. You can see I'm just doing little tiny ones. I count to see how many on it because I'm about to do sort of the flowers as well. Now you can mix and layer your colors. So that green is actually sort of a yellow and a green and a touch of white to make it that color that I wanted. It's not sort of the natural green you kind of get in your kit. You can see here the yellow is too strong, so I've mixed it with some white just to dull it down or pastel it a bit more. I thought it looked better. It was less clashy against the pink color in the background. It made the yellow flowers stand out a little bit more when I lighten them up with a bit of white. And you just kind of roll the plasticine around in your hands until you get it sort of the right consistency. Keep in mind, it looks really cool also if you leave it just as a marble where the two plasticine colors have sort of half mixed. And that's what I did for sort of the wood in the chair. And you'll see later I put a border around my picture. I did all of that and left it kind of marbly so it had a bit of almost like a wood texture to it. Talking specifically about the flowers, I got a little bit sidetracked there. I made little circles and then kind of half rolled them and put 3 half rolls together to give them sort of that sort of rose or tulip kind of look. We're going to do the chair next, and that requires just a couple of sort of little coils to give me the shape of the chair. It needs to be a bit longer. Notice I set it in place and then sort of curve it around, get its shape, make sure it's the right length. Now here is where I could have taken out the table leg and sort of the front table leg and just sculpted the whole chair and then set that table leg back in. But I wanted an idea of how long to make the legs, so I kind of just left it where it was. And I wanted to figure out where the table legs would go, or the chair legs would go in relationship to the table. Now I actually make a mistake here, and I haven't quite figured out why it didn't work. I got the perspective wrong on the chair. And you can see here I've put in just a little bit of a front lip or the side edge of the chair. And because I don't quite know what to do with it yet, I end up going to the window. Something doesn't look right and I haven't quite figured it out. So I've gone to the window next, where I've just sort of taken out a bit of a pink layer, and I'm going to smear in some blue. I'm going to keep the window fairly simple. I couldn't have figured if I wanted to put a picture there yet, or if I wanted to make it a window. So I just put in blue, and then I decided to go with some clouds. I guess technically it could be a picture or outside window. I definitely made it a window. That was my intention. I do put sort of a brown little frame on it. And that's where we can leave the clay sort of mixed together or marbled to give you a little bit more of the wood texture. You don't have to sort of mix it to one solid color. I really do like the marbly effects. This picture didn't have a whole lot of it, but you can see where I made the piece too big and then cut it to the exact size that I want. I do that a lot of the time for that one when I want, or for the window frame when I want it the exact shape or size. You notice I actually cut the little pieces on sort of a 45-degree angle like you would, say, a picture frame or window molding. I ran out of the color. Now I'm trying to sort of mix it back to the same sort of darkness. So you can see where I tested a couple times to see what the color is like against my other one. I made it the same color as the chair, so it sort of harmonized a little bit in the picture. And maybe because I thought I had enough and I was a little lazy and didn't want to make more of it. Either way, I'll let you decide. Now here I'm going back to the chair. I still haven't figured out how to fix the legs yet. I know that there's something wrong there, and I'm touching up the base of the chair or the pad where you would sit, but I haven't quite figured out the legs. And it does come to me that right now the perspective of the legs is wrong. So for example, the 2 legs that are the smallest, I've sort of in my mind projected them as the ones further away, but it's actually the wrong leg is short, and the leg that's on the left, currently the long one, should have been the shorter one, and the longer one should have been at the front. So you can see where I've just fixed it, and it changed the whole look of the chair. Now that the overall composition of the piece is coming together, I can see exactly where I want to put other things. So I need to sort of balance off the space with a little clock and picking the right color for it. It kind of matches the vase. I'm also working with a lot of the colors that I have in my kit. Again, with a lot of the colors that we have in the kits, you can mix almost any color that you want. So the light purple that kind of matched the vase sort of ties the whole picture together. Creates a little bit more harmony. It lets your eye flow around the picture a bit more. Using colors that you've already used in tiny other little places helps sort of pull your picture together. Right now I'm working on the mouse. So the mouse, I'm doing most of the shaping with my hands, just getting sort of the base shape. And then I go into the tool to get all the little details. The first mouse that I had done, if you notice earlier, was way too big. I ended up sort of like cutting it in half because it's like the size of a cat. And then I went to a smaller mouse, and then an even smaller mouse right at the door. Now this is where you want to exaggerate some features. You might notice when we zoom in on the characters that their ears are huge. Their noses are a little bit enlarged. Their legs are a little bit enlarged. I've sort of made their features easier to see, and then it becomes easier for us to identify with it as being a mouse. Now, as long as it's smaller than the chair and it's smaller than the flowers, we know it's just a mouse that's probably closer to us or in view. And that's why the little mouse further away, we didn't need to do as much with it. Now, as a last sort of thought, I was thinking of just, out of humor and looking for something to put on the floor, I decided to do a cat that's just sort of lazing around. That's just sort of feet in the air. This is totally what my cat would do. If a mouse sort of ran by, they'd probably just sort of sleep through it. Just lay on the floor, belly in the air, and let the mouse have free reign. I try and think of little stories when I'm making my pictures, and that's the sort of the story that I'm going to tell to every one of you. Okay, so a lot of people ask me, what's my favorite type of art? Anything to do with sculpture has got to be my favorite. I absolutely love sort of, tricking the eye or capturing light in a certain way, figuring out how to make something like a flat surface or a flat doodle and turning that into three-dimensional space. When you're doing something like clay, you're thinking about inside the clay, you're thinking about outside the clay, you're thinking about how you're going to fire it in a kiln or how it's going to be finished and last forever. How is this going to photograph? All of these sort of things come into my thought when I'm making something sculptural. So I hope you find the same sort of inspiration in sculpture that I do. Thanks for watching the JB Arts YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed all the little add-on things I put in throughout the video as tips and tricks and factoids. Something new we're giving a try. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, share. All of those little things can help out the channel, algorithms, things like that. And these videos then become more accessible to other people. All right, thanks for watching. Have yourself a fantastic day.